The transition from spring to summer was quite the experience this year in West Texas. It rained for weeks, which is something we rarely see around here. I know that the farmers were happy about it, and I was too for the most part. Until my car was stranded in a parking lot while having lunch with my parents. My grandpa had to bail me out the next day. Oh, and should I mention my boyfriend's mom was with us? Visiting from Mexico and meeting my family for the first time. It was totally fine. She was on vacation, we had no plans, and we all laughed about it later. Now, as June is coming to a close, we are experiencing a heat wave with temperatures rising above 100 degrees Fahrenheit most days. It's the perfect pool weather, but too hot to be outside otherwise. Luckily, I have a hobby that is perfect for any weather. Hello and welcome back to another podcast episode. My name is Abby and I'm the maker and designer behind Homey. I'm really excited today because I have 3 new crochet projects to share with you, and I hope that they leave you inspired and ready to crochet something this summer. There's just something about the summer that sparks new life in me. I don't know what it is, and I hope the same happens to you, but I just feel so energized and inspired and creative, and I absolutely love being in this state. I am trying to take advantage of it while I can, working on new projects and trying to finish old projects, because I know that my creativity can come in waves. It just comes and goes sometimes, and right now I've been feeling very creative and inspired, and like I said, I have 3 new projects, 2 of which I designed within the last month. So I've made a lot of progress there, and I cannot wait to share that with you. They're also still very fresh on my brain, so I have a lot to say about them. I can remember all of the challenges. I plan to share that with you. Also the inspiration, how I started to actually write the patterns, all that. So I hope that's of interest to you, and I hope that you've already made yourself cozy and that you've grabbed a project, because we have 3 new crochet projects to look at. I also wanted to mention that, in case you are new here, I knit as well. This episode just will not feature any of my knit projects. I'm working on 2 of them, but haven't picked them up within the last couple of months because they're more fall patterns. One's a sweater and one is a pair of socks. Just in case you want to come back, I also do knit projects as well. But like I said, this one is just going to feature those crochet projects. The first pattern that I have to share with you, I'm still working on the title for the name. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it this way, but it's the Sandbox Tote. And yeah, you let me know once you see it in the comments. Please let me know your ideas. If you like the name or if something else comes to mind, please let me know, because like I said, I'm not 100% committed to that name. But this is the tote bag, what I'm calling the Sandbox Tote. This is it. It has this beautiful mesh detailing with a contrasting base, and then also the straps are crocheted as well. It's flexible but sturdy at the same time. I did make the straps shorter than you typically would, so that whenever you add items to the bag, it's not going to droop down past your waist. There is some stretch there, but not too much to be uncomfortable when you wear it. But like I said, this is the first version, and I actually crocheted this one a couple of years ago whenever I first came up with this pattern. I used 3 strands of crochet thread to make this bag, and that's how these stitches are so fine and you get this super flexible fabric. That was kind of the idea behind this pattern, because at the time I was going to the farmer's market almost every weekend, and I would forget a bag, and I just wanted something that I could throw in the car that was cute, that I wouldn't mind toting around. I could keep my wallet in it, and if I ended up purchasing something, I could throw it in here. So that was kind of the idea, was just to make this fun, reusable bag that I could take with me wherever. And that kind of evolved from just the market to maybe it could be a bag that you take to the beach with you, thus Sandbox Tote. Also, you know, you could take it to the pool, wherever. It honestly took me a long time to get here to this pattern because it kind of hurt my brain at the time. I was trying to figure out the number of stitches that I needed for the top of the bag, because the mesh has a simple pattern repeat of the box plus the 3 double crochets. That's one pattern repeat, so you just figure out how many repeats you want to make it the size of the bag that you want, and then you know how many stitches you need, because you multiply that by like the number of stitches in one repeat times how many repeats you want, and you have the number of stitches, which would be the number of double crochets you'd want here at the base, because you start with an oval at the bottom and then you start crocheting up. But, which I can show you here because I started another version of this while I'm writing the pattern. Pattern still isn't written yet. That's actually what I plan to do today. So hopefully I can get that finished and I can publish that one soon. And a tutorial will be coming for it as well in case you're interested. But this is what you start with, is an oval. But with an oval, you have to increase on both sides so that you get that round shape. And after you increase enough, then you just start crocheting in the round, no increases at all. And that's what's going to create the base of the bag. But whenever I was starting this pattern, I had to figure out how many times I could increase to where I got the number of stitches I needed for the pattern repeat to do the mesh. And that kind of hurt my brain a little bit. So I ended up trying to create a chart. Very first time ever, you know, trying to use the, I think it's Stitch Fiddle software. I finally figured something out. Obviously, I'm not very good at it and I don't use it very often. But I did think of making a chart for this pattern. I really don't think that it's necessary now because, especially the way that I did it there, you don't need a chart for the bottom of the bag. It's pretty simple. But maybe for the pattern repeat, a chart might be useful. I'm not really 100% sure what I'll do there yet. And this pattern also features invisible double crochet stitches, at least the way that I make invisible double crochet stitches. This will be with the tutorial, but essentially every time you make a round, you want to join the round so that you are not crocheting in a spiral, so that at the top you end up with an even edge. Because if you didn't join the rounds, then at the top, essentially, like I said, you're crocheting in a spiral and you're actually going to get a little bit taller stitch whenever you want to finish, and then you'd have to find out how to seamlessly make that blend in. But for this pattern, I figured out that you can do an invisible double crochet stitch where you can't really tell where the join is. I think that you can actually, if you know, it's right here, since I think it does kind of show up on camera. But this is, I don't know, I like joining this way better than a typical slip stitch and then chaining two. I think that's more noticeable. I think that this one blends in a lot more, and you cannot tell on the bag at all, especially whenever you get to the mesh part. And what I'm about to show you is the new version, because I tried out a different yarn. I was going to try to show you, like, this is the bottom of the bag, and honestly, with that invisible double crochet, I don't know if you can tell where the rounds begin or end. Maybe you could. It's this side. I can kind of see it on camera. But whenever you get to the mesh, like I was telling you, you just cannot tell at all where rounds begin and end. So This is the new version. I just wanted to make this pattern maybe a little bit more usable for somebody, because not everybody's going to want to purchase 3 different balls of crochet thread, because that's what I did so that I could easily use the 3 without trying to find the inside, because those are very hard. Usually you can't unless you unravel the whole thing. So I wanted to make it a little bit more accessible and usable for people in case you had a cotton yarn in your stash already. So this one, I forgot the ball band, but this uses the Lion brand 24/7 cotton yarn, and it's 100% cotton, and they have a lot of different colors. And honestly, I wasn't sure I would like the weight of the bag, because it's a worsted weight yarn versus you can tell the difference between these. This one is a lot thinner than this one, and I thought that I would like this one better, but honestly I'm really happy with the new version as well. And like I said, I think it just makes it more usable for somebody, because a lot of people have worsted weight cotton yarn in their stash already. Otherwise it's very accessible. You can find it generally at any craft store. So that was kind of the thought behind recrocheting this. And in the process of recrocheting, I have been writing the pattern, because the chart is basically all that I had to go off of last time, and it took me a little bit to kind of sift through the notes and figure out what exactly I was doing with the pattern the first time. But this is a fun pattern, very, very easy, very, very quick. I crocheted this in like a day or 2, just working on it off and on. So very, very good pattern for that if you're looking for a quick project. But yeah, I would keep an eye out for this pattern. It should be releasing soon. I'm also videoing a tutorial, which maybe I'll get to that today. Hopefully there's enough sunshine left after I finish this, but I'm working on a tutorial for this one, and I'm going to use a different yarn, which I'm really excited about. And I have a fun idea for it, which I'm not going to divulge because I'll save it for that tutorial. It's going to take it to, I don't know, it's just going to make it look different than, say, this version, and it'll be a lot, I'll say colorful, a lot more colorful. But yeah, it'll be using a different technique with the yarn. So I'm really excited about that, and I did a swatch the other day and it looks really cool. So I can't wait to share that with you guys. So keep your eye out for that one. And I'm going in chronological order, so I will get to that one last. That was the last project that I made, but yes, I'm sure you've been eyeing this one and you're interested, but this was the most recent project that I crocheted, so I will get to that in a minute. I have one more to speak about first. Okay, this project has been a roller coaster, honestly, because I was really, really enjoying it. It was a new project, and then I would get to a part where I had to rip it back, and I would be so sad because I had just spent so much time working on it. But then I was like, I know I have to, because I want it just the way that I have envisioned in my head. And so I would get sad that I had to rip it out, but then I get happy because I could figure out those challenges and overcome them. And then, you know, I would hit another roadblock and I'd have to rip back or just really start to think about how I wanted to handle that issue. So like I said, roller coaster here. I've been happy, sad, and I'm at the point right now where I'm not 100% sure the route that I want to take. Maybe I can get some advice from you guys in your comments. But I am crocheting a dress, and I'll try it on for you in just a minute, but I wanted to first talk about maybe the inspiration. It really came just because of the yarn that I purchased. I went to Mexico at Christmas this last year, and it was on our way back from that trip that we stopped in Merida, and we went to the market and we were looking for some souvenir type things. I had most of my family all, you know, I had items purchased already, but there were a few lingering items that I really wanted to look for. So we went to the market, ended up finding yarn, And it was funny, we actually found this store on our way to the ATM because at the market we had to pay cash. So it was actually by accident that we found this store. And so I went in and it was different because they just had like these cards with the yarn wrapped around so you could see the colors. That's not something that I see around here. And so that was cool. But I got to choose what color. So the color corresponded to the number. And so she went in the back and she found it. And she brought back this green yarn, super green. And she had already taken so long that I wasn't really sure if I wanted that bright green. It was way brighter than I had imagined. It was probably dull because fingers had touched the sample thing or the sample card. But anyway, my boyfriend was like, it's a pretty color. I like green on you. Just get it, you know. So he convinced me to purchase it anyway, even though I wasn't 100% about it. But now I do think I like it. It's a lot brighter than what I typically wear. But, you know, maybe the way that I style it, I can tone it down just a little bit. But it's this yarn. It's 100% cotton yarn, and it's made in Brazil. And I bought 3 of these thinking 3 balls would be plenty for a dress. I will probably end up playing yarn chicken on this one, just like this project here, which I'll get to in a minute. But yeah, let me try it on, right? Okay, ta-da! This is it so far, and yeah. Okay, so this is the dress so far, and I don't know if I'll keep it on because I want to show you some details. This design started with the dress in mind, knowing what yarn I had, and then I chose the shell stitch because I had seen some dresses crocheted on Pinterest and I thought that they looked really pretty. The stitch pattern is beautiful. The one thing I wasn't sure about was if you could see too much skin or if you'd be able to see where my bra started and stopped, but I don't think that you can. I think that it's actually a great stitch for coverage, which kind of surprised me, honestly. So once I had the stitch pattern in mind that I wanted to use for the dress, I had to start the dress, but I wasn't 100% sure how to start. I've never made a dress before. I didn't know where to start, so I grabbed one of the dresses that I know I love the way that it fits, and I put it flat. And so I tried to follow the shape of that dress for the back, which is how I got this nice shaping, if you can see. But I really like the coverage that it gets because a lot of patterns I find don't actually cover your bra straps, and I'm a busty person. I have to wear a bra and I would rather conceal the straps. So that was something I was looking for in this pattern, and the back part honestly was so easy. I was able to follow that template, got it perfectly. I think really the first time I got it down, and so that was my baseline. Then whenever I got to the shoulders, that's where I had to make some decisions because I thought about making 2 different panels and then just seaming them together. But then I saw an opportunity to just keep going, you know, from the back, just keep going along the straps and then pick up from the front and go down. So that's actually what I did. And I'm happy that I did it that way because I think that it worked out really well. And all I had to do was seam the sides together because the straps were already crocheted in one piece. But it also posed some issues because once I had the straps down to here, I had to get a new piece of yarn. And so I made chains for the underarm stitches. So I chained however many stitches I needed here to get the stitch pattern. And then I crocheted along the line of this strap so that I could keep it going. Made another set of chains for however many shell stitches I added to the neckline. Started crocheting again on this strap, and then I finished by chaining stitches for the underarms. Then I started crocheting back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And The issue that came up with this is that I am a busty person. And just for reference, I know that it's hard to kind of tell in videos and pictures, but I am 5'5", I weigh about 125 pounds, and my chest is a 34 double D. So my bust is quite a bit bigger than my waist. And so what I was trying to avoid was the top panel, or like the front panel ending right here. Because I find in a lot of stores, whenever I'm trying on dresses, the size that should be my size, at least for my waist, does not fit my bust. It'll start up here and it just looks totally off. So I did not want that. I needed the whole front panel to cover my bust so that then I could pick up in the round and start crocheting the rest of the dress. So those were some of the challenges that I faced there. I couldn't just crochet back and forth the number of rows that I had in the back because, like I said, whenever I actually tried it on, the front part would be up here, and if I kept crocheting, one, it would look weird and it wouldn't be the way that I wanted it to look, and two, the front would end up a lot shorter even at the bottom than the back, and I wanted it to be more even. So the way that I was able to fix that was with short rows, and the short rows were added almost like if you were sewing a pattern, you put darts in there so that you add fabric to capture the bust, but you get rid of that extra fabric. So I tried crochet short rows so that basically you add more fabric here, like down here, you could add more rows here without increasing the number of rows. Okay, the camera stopped because I've been talking for a little too long, and so anyway, I decided, I kept pointing at my boob area the whole time, so I just took this off so I can show you a little bit. But if you can try to imagine, I was talking about the short rows and the front piece. So if you can imagine that this wasn't seamed together as I was doing that. So basically, when you do short rows, you start from one side, you crochet, but you stop short. Let me try to find one. But you stop short, so this would be the edge of the panel. So you stop short, so maybe I stopped like, I think maybe 3 shell stitches. You stop, turn around at that point, and then you start crocheting back. Do the same thing, stop at the same point on this side, and then you crochet back. And you just crochet to the end of the row. So basically you added 2 rows, but you only added 1 row to the side. So that allows you to get that extra fabric, at least that I needed for my bust size. So I was able to add some extra rows here without increasing it on the side seams, so that whenever I seamed those sides together, they were the same size. That was the first challenge. And I ended up getting it after a few tries. I probably ripped it out maybe 3 times. The first time I didn't do as many as I needed, so I had to rip it back a little bit. The second time, I remember I really liked the way that the fabric looked, and I got the number of rows. That's how I figured out how many rows I actually needed, like with the short rows included. But whenever I tried it on, it puckered. And I think it was because I did them too close to the side seam. So whenever I seamed it together, it just pulled it close, and that fabric just didn't know what to do, so it just puckered. So what I did was I actually moved the short rows a little closer in towards my nipple, so that whenever I have it on, my bust actually kind of, it like smooths that out, so you don't tell, like you can't tell that those short rows are there. It doesn't pucker or anything. So that was the first big hurdle, but once I got that, I was so happy, so relieved. So I was able to seam it all together, and then the next challenge came where I wasn't sure what to do under the bust. I had this idea for this dress that was nice and flowy, and it had like, I'm gonna call them ripples, but basically like the fabric was, I wanted it to sit tight up here and then kind of flow out from my waist. And that's what I've had envisioned in my head, and that's still what I want for this dress. So I started to increase on the shell stitches, and it was cute. I ended up with this little peplum top which I'll show you a picture of to see what it looked like. But what I did not like was the way that it was joined in the front, because the panels, like the front and the back, were crocheted back and forth and then seamed together. So whenever I started that part, I was actually going in around, so the stitches look a little bit different. And since I started on the back, I had a line right here where you could see the single crochets that I started with. And I did not like the way the line looked because there was a big difference. I thought it might blend in, but it totally didn't. And then the front, I thought it would blend in with the shell stitches. It didn't because of the reasons that I said before. Crocheting back and forth looks different than in the round. So I thought that it needed something to break up those different stitches so that I could kind of hide the single crochets that I had in the back. So I came up with a different kind of shell stitch that was a little bit bigger, different, and it kind of gives more of the look of a belt. And I do like that it breaks up those stitch patterns. I think that's what this pattern needed. But now the issue that I am experiencing is the bottom piece, like after that. Now I'm not so sure because I added extra stitches so that I could hopefully, whenever I added the shell stitches, so that I could get the ripples. But now what I'm thinking is I need to rip it back so that I add less here, so that it stays snug on my waist. And then I need to add the increases to the shells, because I think the increase to the shells is how I'm going to get that look of the flowy dress. Just like the picture I showed you earlier with the peplum. I think that's why I'm not getting the dress that I like, because I even blocked this last night because I didn't want to rip it out. I was hoping I didn't have to because this is a lot of work. Talking it out, I know that's what I need to do now, so I'm a little bit sad about that, but I know in the end I will definitely be happy. But yeah, that is the dress that I decided to, on a whim, start crocheting. I have about 10 days, I think, before I leave for Mexico, and I would love to be able to wear this there. So let's see if I can get it finished. Maybe that'll be part of my next podcast, is the little challenge to finish this. But I'm also going to be playing Yarn Chicken because I don't want to keep it unfinished. I need to add something along the neckline to kind of bring all of that in together so the stitches look the same. And also I wanted to add little sleeves, nothing big, nothing bulky, just something lightweight and kind of mesh-ish, so that it can just like kind of sit on my shoulder and it'll just look a little bit more finished, I think, rather than just keeping it that tank top. Although I do think that the tank looks nice as well. So we'll see how much yarn I have. I think that's going to pose a challenge. Let's hope I can get it finished and that it's not too short. I think blocking will definitely come into play there. But yeah, I think I should stop talking about this dress. This is probably my most favorite, but it was the most recent one that I finished as well. It definitely does not have a name yet. It's too soon for that. But just look at this thing. Look at the size of it. It's huge and just what I wanted. It has my swim stuff because I was gonna go swimming yesterday, but this has become my swim tote. I have a bag that I take to the gym, and that's for my gym clothes, but I was tired of taking everything out, putting it back, blah, 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 you know, so I wanted something that could be strictly for the swim bag, because I always either forget my shoes, I forget the sunscreen, I forget my goggles, just, you know, all those things. So I thought separate bag would be perfect, and yes, that's what this became. I'm really happy. And so I started this one because I had all this cotton yarn. It came in things like this, like a roll like this. This is all that I have left now. I purchased this in Mexico, same time as this, just a different vendor from the market in Merida. And honestly, I should have purchased more. I just wasn't 100% sure how much I would need, if I would use it. It was heavy. I was running out of space in my bag, so I purchased 2 of the natural color and 1 black. I thought I could make a fun black and white wall hanging, but I didn't quite have a concept in mind for that. So I decided to use the yarn for this. So I guess how this one started was I was watching YouTube as always, and I saw this video where somebody created a bag based off of 5 rectangles. You have the bottom piece, and then you have 4 side pieces, and then you seam the sides together and the bottom together, and it comes into this tote bag. And I was really intrigued by that idea. I thought it was very interesting. I hadn't seen that before, and I wanted to try it out because, like I said, I wanted a bag for swimming, and I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to try it out. And I have the cotton yarn for it, and I was crossing my fingers because it didn't come with a label. Had no idea how many yards or, you know, the weight of the yarn. So I was hoping that I had enough for a bag, and I didn't measure or anything. I just started. So it started with this panel, actually, with this fun design on it. So these were the first panels that I made, and I found a video that gave me the tutorial. And it's funny because I actually started with this panel in mind for where I have just this regular single crochet panel. And I had the idea that this would be the focus of the bag, and then the single crochets would be kind of the accents. But I actually like the way that it turned out, because whenever you fold the bag like this, the diagonals meet, you know, at the points. So you get this really cool effect. And I think that this is actually a nice contrast compared to the base of the bag. It just takes it from being a little simple to something a little more interesting. I just really like that part. So I started with the 4 panels. I made the 2 sides first, and then because I wanted to make sure that I had enough yarn for that, and then I started on these panels. After I had the 4 panel pieces complete, I weighed the rest of the yarn that I had, and I was like, I'm not gonna have enough for the rest of the bag if I use it for the bottom piece. So I went to Hobby Lobby, and I wasn't able to find the same weight yarn because this one's pretty thick. I really like the weight of it, but like I said, I couldn't find it there, so I ended up buying 2 different rolls of a smaller yarn, but held together it gave me about the same weight as 1 strand of the yarn that I was using. So I crocheted the bottom piece, and then I seamed it all together so that you get this nice shape. Since it gives this nice detail right here, it kind of reminded me of I-cord, and I wanted to try to do an I-cord edging. So I actually started where this line is. I started crocheting an I-cord on there, but ultimately decided against it because I only had a limited amount of yarn left, and I wasn't gonna have enough for the rest of the bag. I didn't want to finish the bag with I-cord without having a little bit more fabric here. I just thought that it needed something to break up the pattern. Also, I wanted it to be a little bit taller with the bag. So I ultimately ripped all of that out. Instead, I did a special single crochet stitch that pushes the tops of the stitches out. And then I decided to crochet, and I ended up just crocheting, I think like maybe 5 or 6 rows just to give it a little bit more height. And then I started the I-cord edging around the top. One thing about the I-cord edging is I thought it was getting too loose, and so I was pulling the stitches, but now I think it's a little bit too tight. But if I were to make another one, that would be something that I change. I wouldn't make it so tight. And then it's funny because I had enough, like literally enough yarn to finish 1 strap. That's all that I had left. Finished every little bit of it that I had left. Made an I-cord, which I actually knit this I-cord. I found that knitting the I-cord is much easier. The crochet I-cord edge, or it was easier to make an I-cord edge by crocheting. I did like that, but just making a long tube of the I-cord, I thought knitting it was a lot easier and a lot faster. So I actually knit this and then completely ran out of yarn. That was literally all that I had left. So I was like, no, I don't want to go back to the store, because I purposely used all the other yarn that I had purchased and mixed it in with this one because I didn't want any leftovers. And then I got to the point where I didn't have enough for the rest of for the second strap. That was all that I was lacking. So I went to my stash. Luckily, I had a natural colored cotton yarn. It was similar but different than the cotton yarn I had purchased previously that I used at the bottom of the bag. So I was able to actually use that one. I just held it double, just as I did for the other, or for the bottom of the bag, and I was able to make the second strap. And if you look closely, I don't think you can tell on camera, but if you look closely, the two colors are different, and you can also tell that I used 2 different strands versus one. But that's only if you look closely and if I were to tell you that. But just carrying it around, nobody's gonna notice. So this bag has a lot of character. It didn't take me long to crochet, and I'm just in awe of this bag. I really love it. I think it turned out fantastically, and I think that this would be a great gift for somebody. I'm not sure. I might make one for my mom, although she doesn't really go to the pool anymore. Maybe my sister would use it. I don't know. I just really love the way that this one turned out. So since I'm so passionate about this one, I am definitely going to make a tutorial for this one. And I will also make a written pattern for it to give you all of the photos, videos, everything you need will be in that pattern. I have to purchase more yarn, and I need to figure out a way to get yarn similar to what I purchased in Mexico, because when you look for macrame yarn, typically it's way pricier than just regular cotton yarn. So I need to figure out a brand or some recommendation for that so that you're not paying bukus of money to make for this one. Because a bag like this would get super pricey if you held 2 strands of yarn together like I did, since that's all I could find in stores. I should stop this video now because I could just keep talking on and on all day about these projects, and I know that you have a busy life. So I want to thank you so much for watching this video today, and I hope that you are feeling inspired now to try something new and maybe to crochet a project this summer. I'm very passionate about all of these things, so I would love it if you left a comment down below saying which project was your favorite, or tell me what patterns you're working on. I'm very interested in all of that, and subscribe if you are interested in more videos like this one, and I'll see you in the next video.